See, didn't I tell you had a dreamy voice?
Well, Kyle, I think you have a dreamy voice.
Oh,
so
thanks. I said earlier, I said, just wait. Jeffrey has a voice. He has a presence in his voice, on stage, obviously. So when he talks, it's like, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Where did he come from?
The last time we had you on was a long time ago. You were like our third guest, something like that. And we sat you on the couch and we had this long microphone that we stuck up close to your face. And
yeah.
And Ron and I didn't have any. I think we had these little tiny nothing microphones that were just barely able to record audio. And
look how far you've come.
Look at this. We're like so big now, right? We got our own coasters. I'm wearing a Stage Door shirt. We're like official now, Tom.
Am I getting paid yet?
No.
I thought if we're going to go official, it's not that official.
No,
okay.
not that official. Absolutely not. You're listening to Stage Door Theater Podcast, hosted by a couple of average guys. And today we have, I'm going to say one of the icons. I'm going to call you an icon, right? One of the legends, one of the icons. We have Jeffrey Albright with us today with Actors Collaborative Toledo. He is the guy who also happened to start the Facebook group Toledo Area Theater Exchange, hosted by Actors Collaborative. And if you are not a part of that group and you are a theater goer, theater organization, you need to be. You need to be on that Facebook group. It's a great group, sharing information, sharing even props, sharing calls out, right?
Yeah, props, everything.
Yeah, anything that's going on out there. If you want to know what's going on in the theater world, and somehow you found us, the podcast, but you haven't found Toledo Area Theater Exchange, you did it backwards. You should have found them first and then found us. So, all right, you're doing a show, Actors Collaborative. What is this show? Because we don't know this show at all. It's a play. We're always stumped when the plays come in.
This is a play that has not been done very much. It was originally written for public television show with Michael Moriarty. It's called Winter Rain, 6 Images of Thomas Merton, who was an American Trappist monk, social activist, and...
I have no idea what a Trappist monk is. Is that different from just a monk?
That's the order that he belonged to.
Okay. I don't know what
like Franciscan.
Oh,
yeah.
See, there you go. See, I've heard of Franciscan monks.
You've heard of the Trappist monks. They make jelly down in Kentucky.
No, I haven't, Tom.
They make good jelly.
I know Schmuckers. That's the only jelly I know.
And the Franciscan monks, we all know from the chants, from the songs. That's what we know them from.
Will there be Gregorian chants?
It's Gregorian monks. See, it's not even the right. Are they the Franciscan monks that sing the Gregorian chants?
I don't
know.
Anybody
really not important is this.
No. So this is a series of 6 monologues that take place from just before Merton was on his way to explore his calling to become a monk, and then the last monologue is a posthumous monologue shortly after his mysterious and untimely death in Thailand when he was doing a speaking engagement.
Okay, you got to give us more, because what's that mean? So what were some of these things? What are they doing? What are people going to be able to see when they go to this?
Well, one of the cool things about doing it at Trinity is that we have a deep bench of musicians, and one of our musicians there named Tajj Crowder is going to start the evening with a short concert on the jazz piano, and then between each scene there's going to be a jazz interlude on the piano. And the reason I chose that is Thomas Merton was really, really a huge jazz aficionado. And so I thought that would be cool to use the Trinity music along with the actors. So it's going to be a staged reading. There's going to be a screen with projections with the setting for each scene and sort of the time. And I'm having Thomas Merton played by 6 different actors, 2 of whom are women. Merton was sort of an everyman. He struggled with being human. He struggled with human desires all through his priesthood, and
Well, yeah. I mean, I can imagine that is part of the deal of being a priest. Obviously, is you got to give up all these worldly desires and wants. So, Tom over here is a giant music fan. So, how you feel about that?
I like the jazz incorporation.
Yeah.
So, what era are we talking about? What kind of jazz are we? So, what's the timeline of his life?
He went to Gethsemane, Kentucky. He was born in France, but spent a lot of his time in the East Coast, and went to Kentucky. And the play starts in 1941.
Okay.
And he died in 1968. I just actually had a meeting with the head of music at Trinity, so they are putting together the repertoire. So I gave her sort of what I was looking for, sort of an improvisational style, and sort of the moods of each piece. In fact, one of them is called Love, and it's where he talks about him falling in love with a woman, and he calls her M in his writings. He doesn't explicitly identify her, but at that point he's considering resigning from the order. He ends up not doing that, and throughout his life he was a very prolific writer. He wrote a lot of anti-war pieces, anti-nuclear pieces. He was a huge advocate for racial justice. He was on a lot of lists of...
This is what I love about Jeffrey, though.
Yeah.
He's no notes, just knows all this stuff.
Yeah.
He's just rattling it off. This is a guy who reads play after play after play, don't you?
Yeah, and it's interesting.
Just consume them like like it's lettuce to you. You just
Well, pre-COVID, the priest at Trinity said, "I want to do something around Merton during Lent," and I said, "Well, let me see what I can find." And I found this obscure play at a used bookstore, and it was 3 one-person plays: one about Martin Luther, the Lutheran, one about Pope John Paul, and one about Thomas Merton. And there was no indication of who controlled the rights like you usually get. And so I tracked down somebody who I think is this person. I ended up getting his son, because it's written by a former priest who left the priesthood to get married and then have a family, which is coincidental that those were the things Merton struggled with. And the gentleman, Anthony Padovano, is now 89 years old, lives in New Jersey.
This is his son, is 89.
No, the
writer's
author.
Okay.
But I communicated through the son and said, "Hey, who do I pay? How do I get royalties?" He talked to his dad. He said, "No, just do it for free.
Nice.
No royalties." I mean, that's how
put his
rarely,
name on the bill, right?
Rarely how the show gets produced. So, but anyhow, he died a very mysterious death. They say that he was in a shower and reached out of the shower, to grab a fan that had a faulty cord.
Jeez.
There are some conspiracy theories that the CIA was involved in his death. Nothing is proven, but you look at it. 1968 in April, Martin Luther King Jr. was killed. June 1968, Robert F. Kennedy was killed. December 1968, Thomas Merton, who was a huge social activist and was on watch lists.
As you said earlier, he used to write and fight for rights and do all this stuff.
So
he could have been.
They haven't been able to prove. It's been over 50 years. There's theories. There are people that have come forward that the CIA was involved, and no autopsy was done, and so it's kind of interesting.
The fact that he fell on a knife 13 times is considered a suicide.
Yeah, exactly.
I get one of those.
Exactly. Everybody reaches for a fan with a faulty wire.
Yeah, absolutely.
While they're in the
shower.
shower.
In the shower too.
The blades were really sharp on that fan, probably too.
Water's so hot, I'm going to cool down.
But the thing that I really like about Thomas Merton is his struggles with his holy orders and his humanness, and it's just he's sort of like an everyman. If you ever get a chance to read his early autobiography called Seven Story Mountain, and it's just amazing. And he writes later in a book about this epiphany that he has where he's doing some shopping in, I believe, Memphis, and he all of a sudden has this feeling that he is deeply connected to every person on this planet, and how insane and beautiful humanity can be, which,
I see. Again, I love having you on because your cerebral cortex is on a different planet than mine. The way that you describe things and talk about things, and I'm like, you said, "Oh, if you ever read his," I'm like, "Come on, Jeffrey. Have I ever read his things?"
I don't know what's on your bookshelf.
Not that I can tell you that. So it's great to have you on and have you talk about these different things, so that my brain maybe gets a couple more cells in it. So that's good.
So I'm glued to everything he says. This is great.
Like you said, Trinity, though. Where's this at?
Trinity Episcopal Church, which is a church that's located at Adams and St. Clair, between the Imagination Station and the Valentine Theater.
Yeah, you've done several shows there. I have come and seen you do one of your performances there.
It's my home church. It's where our theater is based out of, where our rehearsal space is. We used to perform there a lot, but then during COVID, the space that we used was converted into a recording studio for our virtual services.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's now being renovated, and I hope by the fall I will be doing more performances in the intimate space. This will be in the sanctuary. Trinity is a very progressive place. This play is about a very progressive monk. It's interesting. He died in 1968, and he was writing about his two main passions were peace and racial justice and reconciliation. And have we changed that much?
Right. Exactly. And Trinity Church, you said, is very progressive. They're the church, like you said, if you go to Cosi and you walk across the street, that's the church right there. And they're the ones who always have, they always change up their signage. Have you seen them change up their signage, Tom?
Yeah,
they always have inspirational messages outside that I read all the time because I go on my walks downtown and there they are, and I check them out. I'm like, that's a good one too. That's another good one.
So they really embraced this, and I'm glad that I finally got to able to do it. The four of the actors that I had reached out to, 3, 4, how long ago has COVID been? It seems like a
2000.
lifetime, eh? Oh my gosh.
2019 and 2000
are going to be doing it. Barbara Barkan.
Oh yeah, I know her.
Mark Owen.
Oh, know him too.
Yeah. Chuck Crockett.
Any other big wigs you got a hold of? I mean, this
Phil
is what we're talking
Skeldon.
about. You're an icon.
Yeah.
Of course they say yes to you, right?
Phil Skeldon, who hasn't done a lot of theater, and one day he showed up to worship at Trinity, and he's been coming frequently, and I'm like, hey, have I got a show for you? Matt Kizaur, who has done a lot of stuff but hasn't been on the stage in a while, and a woman named Angie Gresko, who I've not worked with before, but I'm looking forward to it. So there'll be some different voices.
Looking forward? You haven't started rehearsal?
No, it's a stage reading, so we start rehearsal 2 weeks before the show.
It's coming up already, the show, isn't it? So you're not kidding. So 2 weeks before the show is like 2 weeks from, 4 weeks from now is the show, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
3 weeks. Yeah, so we start rehearsals next week. As I said, it's a stage reading. The cool thing about stage reading is if you hire, if you volunteer.
Slow down.
Volunteer actors.
That's how I got this job.
Yeah, it is, Tom. Thank you for volunteering over there.
You volunteer actors that are good. You need 3, 4, 5 rehearsals.
Right.
I just did a show with Paul Cosman and Larry Farley. We rehearsed 4 times and then went up. And
they're pros, exactly.
Yeah, they're pros,
you don't need a whole lot of prodding for them. They just show up, do what they need to do, go home, work on it themselves, come back, and they've made improvements while you were gone.
And I've been a little busy. I'm directing this little show called A Streetcar Named Desire for the Toledo Rep.
I saw that too.
So,
Yes. So, is this show normally probably not done because it is a one-man show then, besides the fact that it's obscure?
Honestly, I think
obscure because it's a one-man show?
I think it's just obscure because it's obscure. I mean, the book is out of print. I just happened upon it, and it took me a while to track down the book.
But you read so much.
I do.
And you
it's
do all,
boring.
but that's a compliment to the show, though, because you read so much and you do all these things. You picked this one.
Yeah.
You could. And there's a ton of things you have read and you didn't pick.
Yeah.
But this one you picked, so that says something about what this show is.
Is this a book by him you would recommend, or is there something else by him you'd recommend first to read?
Thomas Merton?
Merton, yeah. I've never read anything by Merton myself.
Oh, I'd read Conjectures of a Guilty Bystander. I'd read The 7-Story Mountain.
These titles of his shows, or his books.
Those are, yeah, he was incredible. He wrote poetry. Just a really cool man that wasn't afraid of the Catholic powers that be.
Yeah. And this was in what time again?
It's 41
in the time
to 68, so probably...
when the country was even more conservative.
Yeah, probably
than it is
into
now.
the mid to late 50s to the 60s is when he gained a lot of popularity. And, when you have somebody who's a dissident that is selling a book that's on the New York Times bestseller list, it's kind of hard to keep them quiet.
Yeah,
so,
ignore that this is happening.
Can't ignore
and
them.
it's on the best-selling book for a reason, too, in the country at
Yeah.
the time. It's like this, it needed to be said, and people wanted to hear it.
Yeah.
Whether the people in charge at the time wanted to believe that or not, obviously.
Yeah.
It's going to get read.
So I'm very excited. Like I said, I've been waiting.
I was going to ask you how they're doing, but you haven't even had a rehearsal.
Oh, yeah.
How's Paul doing? Is he doing great in rehearsals?
Paul's not in this show.
Oh, okay. Not bad. How's Barbara doing? Barbara's the one.
She's doing great. Barbara's doing great. I'm looking forward to working with her again. These are all people that I know, other than the one young lady who comes highly recommended. And so, yeah, I'm excited.
I was going to say, how did they audition for this stuff? Did you just pick them this time?
This time I just picked them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was wondering, because is this more of a comeback, for ACT?
Well, we during COVID, we sort of spent our time partnering and collaborating with other theaters as a way to keep going. And August of this year will be our 10th anniversary.
What?
And we will be announcing some things soon about what we'll be doing in the next season. So, yeah.
10 years already for you?
Yeah, 10 years. I'm getting old.
That's nuts. It's nuts when it always happens with the kids. See, when you come over and you're like, oh, hey, how are your kids doing? They're in college. What?
Yeah.
It's like, the time goes away quickly. And when you're older like us, it doesn't feel like it's been that long, and it really has been 10 years for Actors Collaborative. That's impressive.
Yeah,
it only makes sense because the show I saw, the Nether or something like that, was probably 8 years ago. So I got to go see another show.
Yeah, and actually, there's a play by the same playwright that is probably going to be on our season next year.
What's that one?
It's called Breadcrumbs.
Breadcrumbs. Okay. There was something about crumbs from the table. That's a different
Crumbs
show.
from the Table of Joy. Yeah, it's a theme. Crumbs.
That was your show too, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah, I thought so.
Crumbs from the Table of Joy.
I pay attention sometimes.
There you go. Yeah.
Sometimes. Anything else, Tom? You got some stuff, don't you? He's very interesting.
I'd like to know when it's at. When?
Oh, yeah. When always helps.
Oh, yeah. Well, that would help. March 25th at 8 p.m. and March 26th at 3 p.m. at Trinity Episcopal Church. You can get tickets at www.act419.org.
Okay.
act419.org.
Okay, so again, one more time. This thing is about a guy who is mostly struggling. I want to make sure I clarify this for everybody. It's a guy who is struggling with being a human who has pretty much self-imposed this lifestyle on I guess self-imposed his lifestyle on himself. That is terrible English, but that's what he did, right? And he's dealing with all that through his whole life. Is that what it's about mostly? Or?
It's him struggling with humanity and humanity killing each other and building bombs and hating each other, and then he struggles with his own humanity in terms of being able to keep his vows when he struggles with being celibate, and whether or not he actually maintained that and then just went about his business, I don't know.
Yeah, comes to the show, right?
Yeah. But, yeah, it's just, and he's just very insightful about human nature and about what is important and what is vital. And again, it's so timely because, here we are with what's going on in Ukraine, and what's going on with people criticizing the woke culture and race, and we're not getting along.
Yeah, this is a typical ACT show, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it kind of is.
It is. It's another. As what did you say? I think you were the one that said it's another laugh a minute show by ACT. You know,
Yeah,
no,
I mean,
it's not.
It's not going to be. It's not going to be dark.
Yeah, it's a
like some of our
thought-provocative.
stuff. Yeah,
But even your dark stuff though isn't just dark. It isn't just dark to be dark.
Yeah.
It is still thought provoking.
Yeah.
It is. You're learning something. You're watching. It's smart theater is what I would call it also.
And I take that as a compliment.
Oh, it is.
They call
It's
it smart
smart
theater. And that doesn't imply that other people's theater isn't smart, but we
Right.
just do things that other people don't do, and that's fine. There's a niche for everything.
No,
You know,
it is fine. It's completely fine. And
great.
you got a lot of people out there who want to do this kind of stuff and don't want to just be in musicals or
Yeah.
whatever all the time. And we need groups like yourself. Black Swamp does a lot of good plays as well.
Issue Box.
Yeah. Lakeside is a big play place as well. So it's like you guys do plays, and it gives a platform for people who want to go to a play or be in plays
Yeah.
to perform, and that's
Yep, and
that's
then
needed.
immediately, right after this, we're doing another collaboration with the Toledo Rep, and it's going to be at Trinity, and it's called American Hero, and it takes
Yeah.
place in a sandwich shop.
I saw the sandwich on the.
So,
I was like,
It's
what
going to
the-
be done in the second floor of Trinity, which used to be a restaurant. So it's going to actually be done in the restaurant area, what used to be called my brother's place. So that'll be fun.
on top of the world.
I've eaten there.
Yeah.
But
What?
they're not having food. They don't have a restaurant anymore.
Oh, it hasn't been for a while.
Oh, okay.
I just think of the greatest American hero every time you say the
Yeah.
American hero.
It's got to be 15 years ago
Yeah.
but I used to go in there. They had
Yeah.
great cheap sandwiches.
Yeah, great and cheap. And speaking of great and cheap, tickets for this are only $10 for
Hey.
Nice.
Winter Rain.
Nice
So
segue there.
I want everyone to be able to come see it and not have money be a barrier. So
Right, and your seating arrangements for these are always intimate.
well, this is actually going to be in the main sanctuary
okay.
of the church.
I just
so
lied. I
yeah,
lied. Thanks.
I mean it can be intimate if you get up close,
Yeah.
and but there's something about every time I get an opportunity to perform something that's appropriate in that sacred space, because it's because theater in some aspect is a very sacred space, and combine it in a holy sacred space about a man who lived most of his life with holy orders. It's just really cool, and the music. Whenever you play music in that space, it's just magical. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, the music that's going to add to this, and you said projections as well to help move the story along.
Yep.
That's cool.
So the music's playing as you're doing the speaking?
There's going to be a short prelude concert,
Okay.
and then between each of the scenes, there'll
Okay.
be some interlude music.
We're talking 41 to 60. I mean, in the early 40s, we're talking big band sort of sound. It was jazz. What kind of jazz? I guess in the 60s, it was more like, you got bebop and cool and
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But
I mean, he had a wide variety of tastes, and like I said, last minute, I just came here from a production meeting with the director of music and arts at Trinity, and
So you're going to be surprised too, is what you're saying.
I'll be surprised on dress rehearsal, and she's like, and if you don't like what we did, we can change
Too
it.
bad.
So-
Dress rehearsal.
And here's the deal. This is what I truly believe in. I am not a musician, and so I trust musicians.
There you go. Good call.
I had met with a costume designer for another show I'm working on, and I said, I'm not a costume designer.
There you go.
I'll trust you. I mean, it's
so you
important.
get people who are good and trust them to do their job.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah. can you
That's a
imagine that?
rarity in the world, but imagine that.
no, just where you work. Oh, I didn't say that.
This goes live,
Oh, my goodness. I'm in trouble.
That's
No.
amazing, though. Well, I always enjoy having you come on. Obviously, the one other time and now.
Well,
We
you
gotta
had
make
some
it-
of our folks
we did.
here for the goat play.
Yeah, the goat play.
The goat
yeah,
play.
yeah. So, but we need to obviously, whenever you want to come on, you get a hold of us. You let us know you want to come on.
Oh, sure,
We'll
yeah.
try and make time for you. That goes for anybody else out there that's listening to the podcast. You have an idea for a show? You tell us. You got a show coming up? Tell us. You got a job in the theater world? tell us. We want to talk to you. Okay, so don't be shy. Get a hold of us, DM us through all of our social media or whatever. Or you can even call the station. I bet you they'd be able to find us there. Okay, that is it. I think, isn't it?
Thanks for having me. I've really enjoyed this.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for coming in here, man.
Say hey to Gabe for me.
I will. Bye.
Bye-bye.